Top portal quarterbacks. The transfer portal has changed college football forever, and nowhere is that more obvious than quarterback. It used to be that programs lived and died with the quarterback they recruited out of high school. You signed him, you developed him, you waited, you hoped, and if he missed, you were stuck. Not anymore. Now, one portal quarterback can flip an entire season. One decision can change a playoff race. One transfer can save a coaching staff, rescue an offense, or turn a good roster into a real threat. That is why today's conversation matters. We're talking about the top portal quarterbacks, not just the biggest names, not the highest ranked players. We're talking about the quarterbacks who could actually change the college football playoff picture, swing conference title races, and decide whether their new programs are contenders or pretenders. Welcome back to Gridiron Intel, where we break down recruiting, transfer portal moves, roster building, quarterback battles, and the power shifts shaping college football. Let's get into it. The first name on the board is Sam Leavitt. And this one is massive because when LSU lands a portal quarterback with real upside, everybody has to pay attention. That job comes with pressure immediately. You're not just walking into a normal offense. You're walking into a program that expects explosive quarterback play right now. LSU has seen what elite quarterback production can do. When the Tigers have the right guy under center, the whole program feels different. The receivers get dangerous. The stadium gets louder. The SEC starts paying attention, and the playoff conversation gets real fast. That's the opportunity here for Leavitt. He doesn't have to be perfect right away, but he does have to bring stability, confidence, and playmaking to an LSU team that wants to be more than just dangerous. Because LSU being talented is not news. LSU having athletes is not news. LSU having a high ceiling is not news. The question is whether the Tigers can get clean, consistent quarterback play. That's what separates scary from trusted. If Leavitt hits, LSU can become a nightmare. If he's just average, LSU probably sits in that same uncomfortable tier, talented enough to beat anyone, inconsistent enough to lose when it matters. And that's why this move is so important. Sam Leavitt is not just a portal addition. He's a potential season changer. Next up, Dylan Raiola at Oregon. This is one of the most fascinating portal quarterback stories in the country because Oregon is no longer just a flashy team with cool uniforms and speed everywhere. Oregon is building like a monster. The Ducks have become a national power in roster construction. They recruit, they develop, they attack the portal. They play fast, but they also try to win with size, depth, and physicality. That's what makes Raiola here so interesting. Because if Oregon gets high-level quarterback play, the Ducks are not just a playoff contender. They're a championship threat. The skill talent will be there. The offensive structure will be there. The protection should be there. The defense is becoming more physical. So the quarterback doesn't have to carry the entire program alone, but he does have to operate. That's the key word, operate. Get the offense lined up. Make the right read. Protect the ball. Take the explosive shot when it's there. Avoid the panic throw when it's not. Oregon doesn't need a quarterback who plays hero ball on every snap. Oregon needs a quarterback who can make a loaded roster more dangerous. That's the difference. Raiola has the talent. He has the profile. He has the arm. Now he has to prove he can handle the week-to-week pressure of being the guy for a team that expects to win playoff games. Because at Oregon now, being good is not enough. The Ducks are trying to be elite. The next name is Josh Hoover at Indiana. And this one might be the most underrated storyline of the group because Indiana is not supposed to be in these conversations, at least not historically. Indiana is not usually the program people are circling in July as a playoff threat. But the sport has changed. The portal has changed roster building. The expanded playoff has changed opportunity. And Indiana has changed the way people look at what is possible. That's why a quarterback like Hoover matters so much. When a rising program gets the right quarterback, the whole thing can accelerate. The offense gets more confidence. The fan base believes faster. The locker room feels it. The schedule suddenly looks different. Games that feel like long shots before suddenly feel winnable. And that's where Indiana is right now. The Hoosiers don't need to copy Ohio State or Georgia to be dangerous. They need to be sharp. They need to be tough. They need to be disciplined. And they need a quarterback who can punish teams that overlook them. Hoover gives them a chance to do that. The question is turnovers, because playoff level football does not forgive reckless quarterback play. You can survive one bad decision against average teams. You cannot survive 3 of them against elite teams. So for Hoover, the challenge is simple. Be aggressive without being careless. Push the ball without forcing it. Turn Indiana into a program that does not just hang around, but makes opponents sweat. If he does that, Indiana becomes one of the most dangerous stories in college football. Not because they're loaded with 5 stars everywhere, but because they have belief, coaching, and a quarterback who can make the offense real. Now let's talk about the next wave of portal quarterbacks. This is where the position gets really interesting because every portal cycle has the obvious names. The guys everyone talks about, the ones who get the graphics, the ones who get the rankings bump. The one fan bases immediately convince themselves are the missing piece. But the quarterback who changes the season is not always the headline guy. Sometimes it's the player who finds the right system. Sometimes it's the former backup who finally gets starting reps. Sometimes it's the veteran who's already taken punches, lost games, won games, and understands how to survive college football chaos. That's what separates a portal quarterback from a program-changing portal quarterback. It's not just arm talent. It's not just recruiting stars. It's not just mobility. It's command. Can he walk into a new locker room and lead? Can he learn a new playbook quickly? Can he build trust with receivers he barely knows? Can he protect the ball when the defenses disguise coverage? Can he avoid becoming a walking turnover when the pass rush gets home? That is where the portal gets tricky. Because a quarterback can look great in a highlight package and still not be ready to run a real offense at a playoff level. That's why coaches don't just chase the biggest name, or at least the smart ones don't. They chase fit. They chase processing, toughness, leadership. They chase the guy who makes the other 10 players believe the offense has the answers. That is the next wave portal quarterback tier. Not all of them will become stars, but 1 or 2 of them will absolutely swing a season. Another name worth watching here is Alonza Barnett. He's the kind of portal quarterback who can become a real problem with UCF. Not every great portal story starts with a blue chip label. Sometimes it starts with a player who proved he can produce, then gets the bigger stage and the better pieces around him. And that's where things get interesting because quarterbacks like Barnett can be dangerous in a different way. They already have been in real games. They already have dealt with pressure. They've already had to create when things broke down around them. They're not just recruiting projections anymore. They're football players with tape. And in the modern era, that matters. The question is translation. Can the production carry over? Can the decision-making hold up when the defensive speed jumps? Can the quarterback still make plays when the windows shrink? Can the offense be built around what he does best instead of forcing him into a system that he doesn't fit? That last part is everything. Portal quarterbacks fail all the time because the fit is wrong. The player isn't bad, the system isn't bad, but together, it just doesn't click. For Barnett, the right situation could turn him into a sneaky quarterback story of the season. And that could be UCF. That's how thin the line is. Now let's talk about the higher upside wild card tier. Every portal quarterback cycle has not guaranteed stars, but sometimes it has enough talent to make you stop and watch. These are the guys coaches talk themselves into. They have the arm strength, the athletic ability, they show flashes, they have a ceiling, but their resume is incomplete. And that's where the portal gets dangerous because sometimes the flashes become reality. A quarterback who is buried on one depth chart becomes a star somewhere else. A former high school star finally gets the right coordinator. A player who needed reps finally gets them. A guy who looked inconsistent suddenly looks comfortable, and the whole country acts shocked. But it's not luck, it's evaluation. The best programs don't just chase names, they ask real questions. Does this guy process fast enough? Can he handle pressure? Does he protect the ball? Can he throw with anticipation? Can he lead? Can he run the offense the coach actually wants to run? That's why quarterback portal rankings are just the beginning. They tell you who has the profile. They don't tell you who's going to win the job, own the locker room, and deliver in November. And that's what makes this conversation so fun. Because the top portal quarterback in January is not always the top portal quarterback in December. The next big question is which portal quarterback has the most pressure? And the answer might be whoever walks into the biggest expectation gap. That matters more than people realize. The quarterback is going to rebuild a program, and he will have pressure, but he also has to have patience. A quarterback going into a playoff contender has pressure immediately. There's no warm-up. There's no grace period. The fan base does not want to hear about learning curves. They want points, wins. They want to see the proof. That's why Sam Leavitt at LSU, Dylan Raiola at Oregon, that's why they both feel so important. Those are not quiet jobs. Those are national jobs. Those are the jobs where a bad September becomes a national conversation. If they play well, their teams can climb fast. If they struggle, the whole offense gets questioned. That's the burden of being a portal quarterback at a power program. You arrive as the solution, but if it doesn't work, people quickly decide you are the problem. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake fans make with portal quarterbacks. They assume new means better, and that is not always true. Sometimes the backup already on campus is better. Sometimes the portal guy has better highlights but worse command. Sometimes the big name wins the offseason and then loses the job. Sometimes the player who knows the offense beats the player with the bigger arm. That's why these battles are so unpredictable. Coaches just don't need the biggest talent at quarterback. Sometimes they need the quarterback the team trusts, the one who gets everyone lined up, the one who doesn't panic on 3rd and 8, the one who knows when to take the check down, the one who can hit, walk back to the huddle, and then keep the offense calm. That stuff doesn't always show up in portal rankings, but it shows up on Saturdays. That's why this list is not just about names. It's about fit, pressure, and timing. So who has the best chance to become the biggest portal quarterback story? If we're talking ceiling, Dylan Raiola at Oregon has to be near the top. The system, roster, and national platform are there. If we're talking about taking pressure and upside, Sam Leavitt at LSU is right there because LSU gets the quarterback right, and then the Tigers become dangerous immediately. If we're talking about sneaky playoff impact, Josh Hoover at Indiana is fascinating because if Indiana gets stability at quarterback, the Hoosiers can stay in the national conversation longer than a lot of people expect. And if we're talking sleeper potential, Alonza Barnett at UCF belongs on the list. And if we're talking about the rest of the portal quarterback market, the real story is very simple. Somebody outside the obvious headline group is going to pop. It happens almost every year. A quarterback gets overlooked. A coordinator finds the right way to use him. The schedule opens up. The confidence builds. And suddenly every team ignored has one of the most dangerous offenses in the country. That is the portal. It creates instant pressure, but it also creates instant opportunity. The portal quarterback market is not slowing down. This is the new normal. Every offseason, teams will shop for answers. Every offseason, quarterbacks will chase opportunity. Every offseason, fan bases will convince themselves the new guy is the missing piece. And sometimes they'll be right. One portal quarterback can change everything. We've seen it before. The right quarterback at the right place can rewrite a season, save a coach, win a league, and crash the playoff. But the wrong fit can sink an entire offense before October. And that's what makes this thing so high stakes. The quarterback portal is not just recruiting, it's roster surgery. And when you operate at the most important position in sports, you better be right. Because if you miss, everyone sees it. That's the board. Sam Leavitt at LSU, Dylan Raiola at Oregon, Josh Hoover at Indiana, Alonza Barnett at UCF. and the rest of the wild card portal quarterbacks trying to turn a second chance into a breakout season. Some will hit, some will miss, some will become stars. Some will disappear into another depth chart. But one thing is guaranteed, the college football playoff race is going to be shaped by portal quarterbacks. Maybe now more than ever before. Subscribe to Gridiron Intel for daily college football recruiting, transfer portal, quarterback battles for playoff coverage. And drop a comment below, which portal quarterback do you trust the most this season? Thanks for watching.